Joining us now, he is the assistant coach of the UCF Cross Country and Track team. Of course, he's in charge of when it comes to UCF long distance. Of course, UCF Cross Country ranked 13th in the South Region rankings. First time they've been ranked since September 19th, 2016. They're getting set for their home opener on October the 1st. We're speaking, of course, of assistant coach Bryan Jackson joins us here on the Black and Gold Banneret podcast. Coach, how you doing?
Good, good. How about yourself?
Doing great. Let's talk about that ranking, 13th. What was the reaction there? It's been a while since 2016. Was there any reaction at all from the program standpoint or the players? What was that like?
Yeah, I think the girls were excited to get some recognition. But I think they have a good perspective on it. Like I told them, like we don't get too caught up in the opinion of other coaches because that's what rankings are. They're just people's really opinions. It's nice to get the recognition, but we got to stay focused on the growth that we need to continue to have throughout this year and letting the performances on the course speak for themselves.
What's been your thoughts so far? What have you learned about your team so far this year?
I've learned that they're very driven, right? I kind of knew that coming in, but they're a driven group of women who put in a lot of work over the summer, came in prepared and ready for the season, and are working incredibly hard right now. And I think what we've shown right now is still only the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to be capable of as we prepare for the championships in October and November.
Well, you mentioned your roster is very young. You only have two upperclassmen. They're juniors. They're both juniors. No seniors. Everybody else is freshmen. I mean, what is that like? A young roster, but yet they're performing like they're vets in cases.
Yeah, and some of it's misleading because I call them COVID freshmen. Like a lot of those freshmen were here last year with us, and so they got that benefit of being in the program last year, training. Obviously, the reduced cross country season that we did have in the winter months didn't count against their eligibility. So they're all freshmen eligibility wise again this year. And so it looks like we have a ton of freshmen. We have 8, and we have 8 true freshmen. But a lot of those young ladies like Allie and Valerie and Kenzie, they had the benefits of being in the program last year, and they're not technically freshmen. But yeah, very young roster, and very excited about the future.
It's a good problem to have. And of course, you mentioned Valerie Lastra, of course, is the one who's been making headlines. She was the American Conference Freshman of the Year. She just broke another school record in the 4K in their last race. She's broken some records already. Just talk about her and what makes her so unique there. She's off to a tremendous start.
Yeah, Valerie's off to a great start to her career here at UCF. Has set a lot of records, and I think the biggest thing that kind of makes Valerie unique is just her approach she takes, and how hard she's willing to push herself, and how she's just very disciplined in the training and doing all the little things, and obviously a very talented young lady that when you couple her work ethic and attention to detail and the little things all together, it just makes for a special athlete.
When you were recruiting her, when did you kind of notice that she could be this good? Did you know at the time? I mean, what was that like as you were kind of looking at her?
Yeah, I mean, Valerie is a 2-time Foot Locker national qualifier, and in the world of cross country, the top 40 women in the country make that meet. And so that's a pretty prestigious meet to be invited to race at out in San Diego. And she made that meet. She qualified for that meet her junior year and senior year of high school. So it's pretty rare to be able to sign a 2-time Foot Locker finalist, a 2-time high school All-American in cross country. And so I think she wasn't under the radar by any stretch of the imagination. But it was definitely one of those young ladies that a lot of people wanted, and we were just very fortunate that this was the right fit for her.
No doubt. Of course, you've got the veteran on the team, Charlotte Crook, who's been reliable. Talk about her. Is she like one of the leaders on the team?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, she's really developed in that leadership role too, and has come a long way since her freshman year, in her leadership, in her approach to training, and in her approach to competition. I've just been really proud of the growth that she's had over the last This is her 4th year here. She actually has one more year of eligibility after this, but this is her senior year academically. She's just grown a lot into the young woman that she is today, and just really proud of what she's doing, not just from a performance standpoint, but also from kind of a big sister leadership standpoint on the team.
Talk about the rest of the squad. Obviously, Cambry Smith, Alexandra Del Rey had good starts to up in Gainesville there, good races. Just talk about the rest of the roster and kind of what you expect here the rest of the way.
Yeah, we have a lot of talented young ladies on the roster, and if I start listing them off and talking about them, I'm going to leave somebody out, right? But all of those young ladies are just training incredibly hard right now, and I think what makes this team get so fun this year is the fact that like any week we can have a different top 5 or top 7. There's so much depth on this roster that it really pushes them all to be better and better week in and week out. And so, Allie's doing a phenomenal job. She's in a great place right now. Cambry Smith, coming out of high school, and she's a true freshman for us, is really kind of, popped onto the scene here and done a really nice job. But then you got Isabel Babylonia, Lillian Holtry, all these true freshmen that we really expect big things from as we finish out this cross country season. And I think, they're in a good place, and it's going to be fun to see how we progress.
I wondered, obviously, Rayniah Jones had an incredible track and field year in the NCAA championships, trying to qualify for the Olympics. It was just an incredible freshman year. I'm curious if you think her success in that year that she had a few months ago, does that inspire some of your cross country athletes to say, we could be that, we can kind of break out and make a name for ourselves here in the cross country level?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it inspires across the entire track and field team. Every group on the track and field team, I think, is looked at that and like, okay, now who's next? Like, who's going to do that next? Like, and they're all very driven and working incredibly hard. So I can speak specifically for my group and the distance group, but they're definitely a driven bunch. And I think anyone that spends some time with them, anyone who spent some time with them would know that, they're a special group of women who really want big things in not just their athletics, but their academics as well. I think I always want to mention, I always want to give them credit. They were the highest team GPA in the athletic department last year. And so I can't go in an interview without giving them a shout out for that, because I'm very proud of that.
What has it been like? You had to do a track season and cross country season all within this calendar year. It's unusual. Usually, you didn't have it last fall. You had to have it early in 2021. What has that been like? And has that been something that you have to monitor? Has that been have you seen any effects of that? What has it been like?
It was spring 2021 was wild. We had winter cross country. We still had some indoor racing going on during those months. And then we went right into outdoor season. I think you definitely saw some effects on that. Like, I think it definitely affected some of the young ladies come to the end of outdoor season, where they just probably had too many races on their legs in too tight of a period of time. Especially for the younger ones, the freshmen. I think, but then when you give them some time off in the summer, I don't think we're seeing any more effect on that now. I think we did a really good job of giving them a break after that year, understanding that was a big couple months for them from January to May. And I think now they've gotten recovered and they're in a good place to have a normal year.
Yeah, normal year. D, let's talk about you. Obviously, you are in charge of the distance. Just for those that may not be familiar with that, just explain the dynamics with you. And obviously, because head coach Dana Boone runs the whole program, but you're in charge of the distance in particular in the cross country. Just kind of explain the dynamics.
Yeah. So, obviously Coach Boone is the head coach of cross country and track and field. And, she's hired me to be one of her assistant coaches. And my role from a coaching standpoint is to coach the cross country team. And then come track season, responsible for really everything from the 800 meter race all the way up through the 10,000 meters. And so I specifically coach those distance athletes and endurance athletes.
When you're recruiting for a distance athlete, what are some of the things you look for? What are some of the qualities you look for? Obviously, somebody runs it very well, but there's more to that, right?
Yeah. You're looking for, our sport really takes a lot of discipline, attention to detail, It takes a lot of time. It takes patience, but it takes consistency and training. So you're looking for somebody who obviously has the talent to run those distance races, but you're also looking for young ladies that just kind of pursue excellence in all areas of life. I always evaluate their academics, because I feel like if they want to be great in one thing, they'll be driven to be great in everything, And so, I look for those young ladies that are great students, and then just great people. We want to be great people. And we talk a lot about this year about, not only how we're going to do things, but also how we're going to treat people and how we're going to treat each other. And the focus of this year is really like the how we're going to compete, how we're going to train, and how we're going to treat each other, and just always being great teammates and great people.
What got you interested in coaching?
I think sports have always been a passion of mine, from a young age. Played all the sports growing up. Really didn't get into running until kind of like my middle school years. It was kind of interesting how that came about, but always played tons of sports: little league, soccer, basketball. Never really got into football, but I didn't have the build for it or the stature for it. But I played a ton of sports. Always knew sports were going to be a part of my life in some way. Went to college, did an undergraduate degree in a business, specializing in accounting. And then just kind of got through that and realized like I wasn't really passionate about it. And so I was trying to figure out like, all right, I got this degree. Don't know if this is what I want to do my whole life. And so I was talking to my college coach at the time, and she's like, yeah, you're really into this running thing. You're really into track, and like you talk a lot about it. You read a lot about it, maybe you want to chase your passion for your career. Got me thinking. I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. I think I'd be really happy if I got to coach for a career, And so, that's kind of her mentorship kind of got me into it.
It's worked out really well for you. Obviously, what was it that wanted you to come back and work for Coach Boone at UCF? I know you've worked with her before. I think at Texas State, you both had crossed paths before. Yep. I know, I'm sure that was a part of it, but just take us through the process that attracted you to come to UCF.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it started with Coach Boone. When she called me about this opportunity, it was, and being able to come back and be on her staff, somebody I've worked for in the past, and I have a lot of respect for, somebody I consider not only just a great boss, but a great friend. And, our kids are friends, and so it's always nice that we have kids that love to hang out and spend time together. And so, I think first and foremost, it was the opportunity to work for Coach Boone again. And then her vision for the program, the vision she explained to me for the program and what she saw UCF being, was exciting to kind of be a part of that building process. And then when I got here, it's like, holy buckets, this place is special, right? Like I never even stepped foot on campus, but I was like, I came here for, to work with Coach Boone and be a part of her vision, but man, this place is pretty awesome too. And then my family being in Orlando, and Disney and all the amusement parks, is just an added bonus on top of that. So.
Yeah, it's a good deal. It's not a bad place to live. It's a deal. What makes Coach Boone so good and successful there? Obviously, she's had success where she's been, and she's obviously having success right now turning this program around. What is it about her as working for her that makes her as good as she is?
I think from an assistant coach standpoint, it's kind of, I think what really sets her apart is that, she hires people she can trust and she believes in, and then she empowers them to go do their job, and she's not a head coach that micromanages. She really empowers you to kind of do your job, and she gives you your role and go run with it, and she's always there for support. But she's not necessarily someone there that's gonna always be looking over your shoulder, double checking your work kind of thing, and I think from the athlete standpoint, it's the relationships that she builds, starting from the recruiting process on, that there's very few people that I know that can walk into a house on an in-home visit and come out, having already developed the type of relationship she's already developed with those prospects and recruits. And I think that's what gets the girls interested. And then when they get here, I think UCF closes the deal. And then those relationships that she continues to foster with the athletes along the way.
And of course, she came from Texas Tech, which is amusing because now obviously the latest news of UCF, they're going to be moving to the Big 12. Have you asked her about any advice of where we're going to eat when we go to the Big 12. What's been the reaction from cross country? Because obviously a lot of the attention is on like football and the effects on that, but this affects all sports, and I'm fascinated your thoughts on how it affects from a cross country standpoint and track and field for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really dove into where we're going to eat when we go to Lubbock too much yet. I'm sure she'll have some great places to eat because we always find the great spots to eat, the barbecue spots specifically to eat when we're on the road. So I'm sure she'll guide us in the right direction when we get out to Lubbock. But I think right now we're really focused on this year, and we're still in the American, and we have some championships that we want to win this year. And we want some championships we want to win before we leave this conference. And so I think we're all really excited about the going to the Big 12 and what that has in store. I don't think any of us really know for certain what year we're going to be entering definitively yet. So I think for now we're excited, and we're looking at what our approach is going to be from a recruiting standpoint, but we're really staying in the moment and really want to finish the job we have at hand right now.
Well, especially though, I mean, you're currently in a strong league and you're in another strong league. So for you, it's not as big of a jump. I mean, you got SMU, Tulsa, Houston. They're all ranked in the South Central. Everybody knows about Houston. Yeah. What's your thoughts on the league this year? I mean, you mentioned Lakeland this year will be the host for the American Conference Championship. Yeah. What's kind of the outlook as far as this league? This league is tough.
Absolutely, it's tough. It's really top heavy, and it doesn't get And so I think I was talking. It's going to be one of those years that the difference between second and fifth won't be very much, and maybe second and sixth won't be even that much. And it's going to come down to those one or two spots and making sure that if we're going to be that team that comes out on top of those battles, that we're picking up those final points in the last K of the race. We're not the team that's kind of like coming off the race at the end. We're the team kind of moving forward at the end and picking up those extra points. And so, I think it's gonna be very, very close. And you just never know what's gonna happen. But that's what makes the league fun. You could, super competitive up front.
Is that something that you think you're having that experience, as weird as it was in the winter, spring, the cross country season, to have it? Because there was no guarantees it was going to happen. To have that experience and learning from that, is that something you think that will benefit here in the conference once you get to Lakeland, that they know what to expect? If you have one bad day, that could be the difference.
That's the difference. Our sport, cross country and track and field, like our championship is decided on one day, or track one weekend. And so it doesn't matter what you did all season. It matters what you do on that day. And so that experience that like Val and Allie and Mackenzie, those young ladies that were freshmen last year, the fact that they got to race in an American Conference Championship and it didn't count against them. They still have 4 more conference championships they can run in, whatever conference that's going to be, is unprecedented value, right? Most of the time when you redshirt a season, you don't get to go to the conference championship and compete. So you don't get that experience. But they got that experience. It's kind of like free experience we talk about. And so, it's gonna pay off huge that they're freshmen, but they're freshmen with experience, and so. Yeah.
Does it also change the way you coach, whereas maybe if they're kind of new, they don't have that experience, you have to be more patient with them, or you kind of coach them the same way, regardless of how much experience they have?
No, you definitely can kind of, you definitely know how to coach them a little bit better, right? When you've had someone in the program for a year, you really have a good understanding of like when to push them, when to kind of hold back and let them recover, and kind of you get a really good understanding of them as a young lady. Everybody's so different. Every person's different. And so when it's a true freshman, you're just kind of trying to figure them out a little bit early on in the year. But it's definitely easier. Like I know how to push Valerie now. I know how to push Allie. Obviously Charlotte and the other upperclassmen I've coached them for a couple of years, so we got a good understanding of what it takes for those girls to run fast.
You'll be hosting the UCF Invite October the 1st, 6:45 scheduled start time. I know you're preparing for that, and then you've got the FSU pre-nationals and then the conference championships. What do you want to see from your team here in the coming weeks? What are some of the keys here to have this continue the success you've started with and even get better?
I think the one key for us is going to be to continue to run with a level of cohesiveness and togetherness. I think that's that's been really what's helped us so far is, the packs of runners that we're running with. I think sometimes when you get all strung out into a cross country race and you have everybody kind of isolated by themselves in the race, it's easy to struggle if it gets hard, but when you have that teammate next to you, and you're pushing each other and you're chasing down the next girl and the next girl and you're really moving up through the race together, it really adds an extra level of motivation, kind of race for not just yourself, but for your teammates. The one thing I really want us to see us doing is as we get into bigger and bigger races, the home meet, and we go up to pre-nats up at Florida State, I want to see us not lose that cohesiveness that we're racing with right now. And the other thing is just kind of continue to put in some work here, and then freshen up and kind of get recovered. We have our legs under us and we're ready to go.
Well, Coach, we're excited for the great start, 13th ranked in the South Region rankings. We look forward to seeing you coming back hosting on October the 1st. Thanks for taking the time. I know it's a busy time, but congrats so far on the success and good luck the rest of the way, and we'll talk soon.
Yep, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.